Hey guys, so I want to talk a little bit about a few more of these chapters that we read over this last week, and I apologize because there's so much in this that I can't cover all of it, but there's a few sections I want to kind of focus on this time. But really, when we start at chapter 13 through what I'm going to cover here, I think up to 18, so 13 through 17 here, I mean, I kind of see all this as the beginning of the end. For Jesus' time on earth, I mean, it starts at the night that he was betrayed, and it starts setting the tone of everything that's supposed to happen from here on out. Jesus starts by washing the disciples' feet, which is always just a huge moment in Jesus' story, because I love it. Actually, Peter here tells him no, and I love that Peter says, "No, you're not gonna wash my feet. You know, I'm here to serve you. Why are you gonna wash my feet? That makes no sense. It doesn't make sense at all." And Jesus explains it to them. Look, I am your master, right? So what does it mean if I wash your feet? That means that you must wash the feet of all. You are to be a servant above all else. If I am a servant, then you also must be a servant. And it just really sets the tone of what the church is supposed to stand on, is servanthood. And at first it was really confusing, but then they accepted it, that if this is what Jesus is saying, then he means it, and we must become servants, and we must serve the world. And that goes right into the betrayal, Jesus predicting his own betrayal by Judas and stuff like that. And there's a lot in that, but after that we see that Jesus comes to start promising that something better is going to come, that the Holy Spirit will come and just lead them and guide them from there on out, and it'll start to change the tone for them. And he gives them the command of loving one another. As they're being servants, they are supposed to love one another, and that is huge for a world that he goes on in chapter 17 specifically, and 15 and 17, talking about how the world's going to hate you. So if his order, his command here is to love one another, it is irregardless of the way the world treats you. The world's going to hate you, is what he's saying, but yet you are supposed to love one another. That is huge, and there's multiple references to this person, the prince of the world. And this is a small detail, but the prince of the world is actually the devil. And he's talking about the devil on multiple occasions, about how he is coming back to take control over the world. But Jesus has a plan over all that. In chapter 15, we see him talking about how he is the true vine and everything, but it's not the idea of the true vine that I want to talk about. It's the idea of like this. In verse 5 here, it says, I am the vine, you are the branches. If you remain in me and I in you, you will bear much fruit. That's something that I personally have heard a lot of times, but the thing that I think is often skipped over is that word if. We have the choice to remain in him or go in our own directions. If we remain in him, we will bear much fruit. And that's the challenge, is to remain in him, even while the world hates us, even while the world looks at us and says, no, like, you're not right, you're not going to get this. In chapter 16 going on there, he talks about how he's going to be leaving for a little while, and the disciples are going to mourn, but in another little while, they will celebrate, and they will have joy. And I love that they're confused by, what does he mean by a little while? Because I think often that's where we get stuck a lot of times. What is a little while? You know, we're ready for God to take control. We're ready for God to do more in our lives. But what's this little while that we gotta wait? Like, what do you mean by that? How long is a little while? And he doesn't actually answer that, but he just says, hey, in a little while, it's gonna make it worth it. And I think that's great, and that's something that we can apply today. One last thing I want to talk about is in this chapter 17, in Jesus' prayer to his Father, to God. The first half is awesome. It's all just about how he acknowledges who he is, what he was sent to do, and how he's trying to do it, how the disciples have followed, and that he prays for his disciples. But when we get to verse that says 20, verse 20, it switches. And here it says, verse 20, my prayer is not for them alone, talking about the disciples. I pray also for those who believe in me through their message. That's us. Like, I think that's awesome to think about. Jesus prayed a prayer. He himself prayed a prayer for us, for those who would believe because of the message that the disciples later on bring. I mean, think about that. Jesus prayed specifically for you right before his betrayal, right before his death, right before everything that he knew was going to happen. He knew you and saw you at that time all the way back then. And he prayed for you, that you may have strength and that you may be able to follow. I just kind of want to sit on that and focus on that for a little while, because that's huge.